Across Africa, culture stands as one of the strongest pillars of identity. It shapes how communities celebrate, how they mourn, how they connect, and how they pass values from one generation to the next. It carries history, pride, and a deep sense of belonging that continues to define what it means to be African in a rapidly changing world. At the same time, culture exists within living societies that are constantly evolving. As our societies grow and change, new conversations are beginning to emerge, conversations that invite reflection on how traditions interact with dignity, safety, and human well-being. Recent moments in Africa, including conversations sparked by ceremonies like the Alaido Festival here in Nigeria, and practices such as the Trokosi system in part of West Africa, including Togo, Ghana, and Benin, have brought renewed attention to these subjects. Now, these conversations continue to highlight the delicate balance between cultural pride and the lived realities of individuals within these systems. As awareness expands, there is a growing focus on how certain long-standing practices shape our experiences, influence human rights, and affect the overall well-being of people across communities. Today, we'll be diving into respecting traditions and challenging harmful practices. Where should Africa draw the line? And I have with me in the studio Lois Tofumi, a cross-cultural and diversity expert and a strong advocate in the fight against female genital mutilation and gender-based violence. She has been deeply involved in advocacy and community engagements around these issues. Remember, this is Razeb Africa, where we have conversations that shape Africa, Africans, and people of African descent. So thank you so much for joining us today, Tofumi.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm excited because it looks like a very beautiful day, and you look so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. You're not looking bad.
Thank you.
Let's start. I would like to ask, how do we define the line between culture and harm? I know that you've done works around this topic, so that's why I believe that you're the best person to bring on this, to have this conversation with today. So what do you think how do you think we can define the line between, okay, this is culture and then this is harm? Okay, so let me just define what culture means. Definitely taught us from secondary school, right? Yeah. Culture is the way of life, like the way people live and all of that. But if that culture now begins to violate a person's dignity, a person's safety, what else, consent, right, human rights, then it has crossed that line from culture now to harm, because culture is something that we're supposed to uphold, supposed to help us, make us happy, help us to remember our heroes past and all of that. But when it begins to now affect our lives, affect our dignity, our safety, our health, mental health and all of that, then we need to draw a line. Okay, well, you said culture is something that's supposed to make us happy. Yeah. So that means we are supposed to be practicing our culture with fulfillment, not with like with excitement, right? It's just like when we go for traditional weddings. That's still culture, isn't it? And then we're excited, we wear our cultural wears. Even in secondary schools today, when they do cultural activities, they display different cultural foods and all of that. We're excited and we're happy about the culture, right? But when we now begin to see that this culture is now making us to maybe cut a part of our body, this culture is now making us to feel like we are less of a human, then we begin to look at it and begin to frown at it that, oh, this is affecting me in a particular way, and then we need to stop. Okay, now, so can a practice still be upheld as tradition, even when it results in suffering? Because you said culture is meant to make us happy, and you're looking at it from the angle of like the positivity. But then there are also, I don't want to say negative cultures. This is not to bring down any culture. It's just for us to have a proper understanding of what culture is about. There are some cultures in Nigeria that's whereby maybe a woman loses her husband and then she's asked to cut her hair and the legs. That's, in that situation, nobody's happy, but she's expected to do it because it is the culture. So at this point, like, it's their tradition and she has to do it because she wants to follow the tradition. So can the practice still be upheld? Like, can we still call it tradition? Because, or we should just term it as suffering and I'm not going to do it. Okay, so I don't know why you did not want to call it a negative tradition. Because I don't want to talk down people's culture.
No. It's not about talking down people's culture. I feel that they are traditions that we call harmful legacies, right?
Okay.
Because these traditions are things that are passed down from one generation to the other. There's some things that we did not even see as something,
but we
just came to understand. We saw the effect on we human beings, and we now felt like, oh, so this thing is actually harmful instead of helping us. And an example is what I advocate, on, and that is female genital mutilation. A lot of people have been doing it for years. That is also a culture. That's also something that's been passing down. During that, some people do not even know the harm. They just pass it down from generation to generation. They don't know what it's actually doing. They just thought that their fathers were doing it, and they just grew up and met it, and they continue to do it.
Okay, now who determines what should be preserved and what should evolve? Who determines it? Is it our ancestors? Is it we, the new generations? Do we have the capacity to tweak a culture to suit the generation?
Individuals. Because we're the ones that are affected by it. The people in that particular community, right? The people in that community are the people that are supposed to influence the change. So if there's something happening in your community, you're not happy about it. Female genital mutilation is happening in my community, it's happening in my state. I'm from Ekiti State, right? And I'm fully, advocating to end female genital mutilation by proper education, making people understand that, this and this is wrong, that should not continue, and all of that. So that's what I'm doing. So the people that are supposed to, say, oh no, hold the government's traditional leaders accountable are these same people that are living in that community.
But realistically, there was a need for the whole female gender mutilation, which I know that is wrong, but the reason why they started it then, the reason still stands. I don't know if it is still stands.
It's because of,
so now that you say that, okay, you are advocating against it, is it possible to reform these deeply rooted traditions in a way that will still honor the cultural heritage, like the essence, the reason why it was being initiated in the first instance?
Okay. So going back to what you said earlier about female genital mutilation, and you're saying that the reasons why they were still doing it are still there, right? And there are reasons that people in those communities will say, oh, this is the reason why we are doing this, and we don't want our daughters to be promiscuous and all of that. But looking at it from the perspective of female genital mutilation, and we can see that female genital mutilation is doing a lot of harm for women, than there's not even good. FGM does not have any health benefits, right? So there is no good, that comes, with female genital mutilation. We have long-term and short-term consequences when it comes to female genital mutilation. Now, going back to the question about, if switching the law can...
Yes, is it possible to reform the deeply rooted traditions in a way that would still honor cultural identity?
Okay, there are ways to do it. I feel that you just going into the community and you just shouting and saying, oh, we should stop this particular thing, without, fully understanding why they're doing it, sit with them and giving proper education, then I feel that's a problem. So I think that we need to be intentional about, creating this awareness. I've been, doing cross-culture and diversity for a while, and sometimes when I go into communities, a lot of people do not even know what it means. They don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. They don't even know the harm that it involves, that's involved, in this kind of thing. So we now have to start educating them that, especially when it comes to female genital mutilation, I'm making using examples of female genital mutilation because that's my field, right? And I'm saying that, if you go to those communities, you now educate them and tell them, oh, this is what is causing. They will not be like, so this is what is happening. We did not know. So some people do not know. So I think that is an intentional effort with patience to make them understand that, this particular thing is a culture, but
some communities actually know, but then they still continue to hold on to these certain practices
because of the people that are gaining from it.
So it could be because of financial gains.
Because of financial gains, because of the people that are gaining from it, power, that are enjoying the status quo and all of that.
I think it's more of power. It's going to be more of power than of financial gain. So now let me take it back to the recent outrage concerning the Olaido festival that happened in Nigeria recently. over the weekend, and then people were, it sparked so many conversations, and people were saying this is a culture that should never even have existed. I think it was just a conversation in the morning that I realized that, oh, this is not the way it was, especially the way the media portrayed it, or the social media rather, the way the social media made it feel like you were the one explaining to me that, okay, this was not what it used to be. So I think I would like us to have that conversation, and maybe other people will be able to learn.
Okay, so actually what we saw on social media, I'm actually not from Delta State or from the so-called, local government, because that was where it actually happened. I'm not from there, but I went into detail to check the press release from, the Ozoro Kingdom itself to actually read what was happening. So people are just calling it the Ozoro Rape Festival, right? It's actually the Aludo, festival. So this is done, it's a festival for fertility actually. So the women are out there, and they probably playfully, from what they wrote, playfully rub them with sand and all of that, and it's like a prayer for them, something like that, if you can put it in that English, to help them and all of that. So when I saw what was happening on the internet, in fact, that was the first time during the weekend. Friday was the first time I started hearing about that particular festival. And if you go on Twitter, you see the videos and everything that's happening, and it's really heartbreaking because
the videos were pathetic.
Yes, very pathetic. And I saw, people. It was like a pack of dogs happily looking for who to devour, right? I'm sorry for using that particular word, but they came out, the problem was that they were happy, they were smiling, they were excited about what was happening, and that breaks my heart, because we've been advocating for, to end sexual and gender-based violence for the longest of time, and when we still see perpetrators still
doing it excitedly, they're not even hiding behind the curtains to do
exactly. So that we have the statistics shows that 1 in 3 women have suffered sexual and gender-based violence. So it's like 3 ladies are working, and 1 person from those 3 ladies have been assaulted. So you're going on the street now, you are seeing 3 ladies, and 1 from those set of ladies have been assaulted. That's what that statistics is showing. And truly, when you look at it, you see that a lot of them, you said that they've gone through one sexual trauma. Maybe it was an attempted rape, probably something of that sort had happened,
and from their family members and from
friends, right? We've had reports, even in my organization, Good Time Philippine Missions Foundation, where a girl was reportedly raped by her father's friend, right? We've seen these issues happening over and over again, and we are thinking that, I was even excited because I felt that we are making headways. It dampened during the COVID, but after the COVID, we picked up the advocacy, and a lot of people have adhered to the advocacies, especially in Ekiti State, where we do lots of these advocacies. And in Ekiti State, I'm so excited to say it, and I'm proud to say that people in our community, when you hear anything about domestic violence, you hardly hear it in states like Ekiti State, because we have our own laws, we have our own VAP Act. VAP Act is the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, and we uphold it, right? We hold perpetrators accountable. But when you now go to some other states where people are not really informed about the laws, people are not really informed about some of the things that are happening, then you just see everybody doing whatever they want to do. And I felt that this particular festival was actually hijacked by hoodlums. That's what they said, that because they say that's not how the festival usually happens. So but that does not close up the fact that a lot of girls were affected, harassed, assaulted,
in that process. The issue more pronounced, because we have that makes it look like we have we have more work to do, because if our youth are excited, even if it was hijacked, that's not the kind of thing that we should be.
That's not even an excuse.
That's not even an excuse
for you to see somebody's sister. I think we should bring it home, right? For you to see somebody's sister, mother, auntie, and you feel the next thing you see is to use her as a tool to satisfy your needs. That's a lot. And I think that we need to, still go back to ourselves. I was talking to someone on my way here, and we were talking about understanding humanity and compassion. I think those two things are missing these days.
Exactly.
People not understanding humanity, that this next person that is sitting close to me or standing close to me is a human being.
Even when you want
right?
to obey culture, or you want to obey tradition, you still have to put in
humanity and compassion, right? Bring it home. If this is happening to me, happening to my sister, happening to somebody that is close to me, is that how, my sister is coming back from work and we're seeing somebody is going there and is hijacking and trying to rape her? How would you feel as an individual? I think we need to drive it home to the people that assaulted those ladies in those videos that we saw. Because,
I like that we're exploring this. It is important to ground the conversation in real experiences across the continent. There are communities where female genital mutilation, like you said, is still practiced, particularly in countries like Somalia, Guinea, Sudan, Nigeria. A practice rooted in tradition, right? Yet one that has significant implications for health, dignity, and bodily autonomy. In countries such as Niger and Chad, we still have child marriages, shaping the lives of young girls and limiting access to education and personal development. In part of Nigeria here, Ghana and Kenya, we still have the widowhood rights that is being observed, which often places women in deeply vulnerable and emotionally distressing situations. For instance, like we already said, it's like there's a culture in Nigeria whereby if a woman's husband dies, she's meant to drink the water.
Then they wash the dead body and make her drink the water
for her to prove
that she did not kill the husband.
Do you think, let's say like 5 years to come, do you think that culture, that tradition, do you think it will still stand? Because I think they
don't stop there. They collect everything that she has and throw her to the street. That's what a lot of them do, and this culture is often practiced. And I think that one thing that we don't often create awareness about is some of these harmful traditional practices that especially happens to widows, because they have to pick themselves up from the
scratch. So they're even the one that need more help. They don't need that.
Exactly. So they are, really vulnerable, because these people, they take them, they shave their heads, they harass them, they assault them in manners that you cannot even imagine. And these same women are supposed to pick up themselves, get jobs, and take care of their children, so that their children do not become non-entities, right? So it's also a traditional issue that I think that we need to also focus on and really, drive home, because a lot of women, how do they become productive? I was telling somebody today while I was coming that at the end of the day, every work that a woman does has the GDP that we are all looking at, right? So if a woman is not productive, if her mental health is not in the right place to do that thing that she's supposed to do, to add her little quarter to the GDP in the country, then that particular spot is affected. So we need to really address sexual and gender-based violence. I don't think in 2026 we should be seeing something like that kind of festival happening in this country.
There's also another culture that once a woman's husband dies, the husband's junior brother takes over both the woman and the child and everything that the late husband has.
You
just imagine.
I've heard of that too.
They say the moment.
So I think that when they started some of these laws and cultures, they were there to actually help, especially that particular one, because sometimes we just hear some of these cultures and we see the bad things behind them, but I think if we look deep into what was supposed to have happened,
preserve the lineage of the family.
Exactly. So that was probably what they had in mind, but then a lot of people now hijack it, like I say, and they are opportunists.
It's so bad to the point that even while the husband is alive, the junior brother still feels like he has the right. There's a culture.
Or even kill the man so that he can take over the wife, and because they understand the culture that the woman will be mine.
That I heard that when you go and visit your husband, your brother as a guy, he has the right to entertain you with his wife.
Yes, I've heard about that one. I heard about that one.
Ridiculous. The woman in question, is she not a human being? Is she a tool? Can she talk? Can she make her own decision?
They use her like biscuit and coke when you used to entertain your visitors. So that's striping people of their dignity. That's taking their dignity off of them, and that is very wrong.
In Cameroon also we have practices such as breast ironing, which have been reported carried out with the intention of protection, resulting in physical and psychological effect. The day I saw a video of the breast ironing process being carried out.
It's happening here in Abuja.
It's happening.
Yeah.
Wow. I have not seen any in recent times, but the day I watched the video,
so there was a time the former Minister for Women Affairs wrote a memo, to a particular community so they can sign that they would stop the act. It's happening here in Abuja, but I don't know if it has stopped. But as at 2 years ago, they were still having that struggle, and in
Africa in general, it has not stopped. We still have several cases. There are several cases of children being molested and having to go through that horrific processes. We've also had cases of children being accused of witchcrafts in countries like Democratic Republic of Congo, Nigeria, leading to stigma, abandonment, and trauma. This one is like everybody. In fact, 90% of Africa, I don't have the correct statistics, but 90% of African homes, we've had that issue whereby somebody, it could be that the person is sick or something, and then we ascribe it to being spiritually possessed, being a witchcraft. Then we have to.
There was a time children who had, sorry for cutting you, children who had who were suffering from sickle cell were often termed as having witchcraft, or they call it obanji, things like that. And that's because a lot of people, their minds were not open to go and check, like do medical investigation on some of those issues to know what is actually happening.
Even children that are suffering from autism now, it's always looking like there's a spiritual attachment to it, and then people think that, maybe
let's take them to a church.
Yes, let's take them to a church. Let's take them to a river, a water to wash their heads. Or maybe it could even be that somebody would just ascribe the sickness to the sins of the father, like, maybe you did something wrong and this is how they are coming to you. You get, so when you look at it, and it affects children, it affects their mental health, it affects them growing up, because you would not see a child that has gone through that horror of maybe being beaten by broom just because they want to chase out a witch. Like
female genital mutilation, a lot of them go through depression, low self-esteem, post-traumatic stress disorder, so that happens to them, so that affects their education in the long run, and you see a lot of them dropping out of school. So at the end of the day, we're not just looking at the physical harm here, but we're looking at psychological harm, because that's the one that kills a person, right? When you do something to somebody and you just say, oh, sorry, let everybody just go their way, and at the end of the day, some people are traumatized, some people are still feeling the need to want to commit suicide from that particular thing, then that's a big issue.
Wow. Again, I read about the Trokosi system in Ghana that's historically placed young girls in ritual servitude within shrines as a form of atonement. Like I said, they think that the sins of their father, and then the parents would now dedicate one child to the shrine and be like, okay, this child is for all what I have done, the sickness. And then the child now has to face sexual harassment from the people that are going to carry out. It's not as if any god, any small letter god would come and say, okay, this is my sacrifice, let me do. They are humans. They are also humans perpetrating this sexual act on these children. And then you look at it and you're like, why do parents have to do? I just hope that this.
I think it's still because of this cultural issue. People see it like maybe for their parents is thinking that, let's go and see how we can cleanse our family, or so let somebody pay the sacrifice of wealth, so that our family can be wealthy and live in good health and all of that. So they need to sacrifice people. A lot of things happened in the past. In fact, there was slavery in the past and some of these issues. So my own issue now is the reason why we're having Ozoro rape. I'll call it the way it is on social media. Ozoro rape.
Social media has a way of amplifying things.
Ozoro rape festival in 2026.
If somebody had not tagged it, or had not put that caption, if we had put it as the actual name of the festival, and maybe we would have seen it in another light, even though we actually saw the videos we saw those videos, but the fact that it termed it the raping festival even made it more pathetic, because if it gets to the...
I think that it happened, that hashtag happened after the event.
Okay.
Yes, now it was after the event that people started putting that hashtag, because they wouldn't see if they don't see what had happened, they would not say So it happened after the event when they saw what's happening. So definitely Ozoro is the name of the particular kingdom, and raping is happening in that kingdom. So they tell me Ozoro rape is when you now go deep and see, you now understand what it was for.
Would have, because if the younger generation see it now the way you've said it with that caption, that is what they'll be propagating, that is what they would know, that is what will stick into their
But
own
I think
head.
that in a way that would help, because that it will now help them, or help each and every one of us understand that this happened and it should not happen again.
For someone like me, that was like my
Yeah.
first time seeing, and in fact, that's even enlightened me. I'm like, okay, this is still happening in some communities, and it's something to look out for.
You'll be shocked at what is still happening in different
The whole lot
communities.
is still happening.
Yeah, because some communities are still killing their firstborns, to do. Some people are still collecting virgins and still using them as sacrifice. A lot of things are still happening, rituals. A lot of things are still happening, in different communities. And I think that this should help. This Ozoro Rape Festival, should help us, shine the torchlight to other things that are happening, other cultural things that have been tamed culture, but they are actually violent, right?
Yeah.
They are actually things that affect the lives of people, their safety, dignity, and even the fact that they don't give consent to some of these things happening. Because if you see those ladies that, they were actually ripping off their clothes to, do whatever they wanted to do on them, they were screaming,
yeah,
they were shouting, they needed even that trauma alone would affect them, because after leaving that particular community.
I was so shocked to see that within that group there was nobody to even stand up to
say no.
To say no. Nobody.
I think the people that would even stand up to say no are a few set of people, and I feel that those set of people saw what was happening, and the first thing they should have done was to call the police.
We have community leaders. Even if you think, okay, the police is far-fetched, we have community leaders, we have elders in the society. Even if the youths, like we said, they hijacked, but there should have been some sort of
information that would have come ahead of time.
Don't, you guys, what you are doing is wrong. Let's put a stop to it before you get to the social media space. And I am really sad that such.
I even felt like there were some informations that should have come in ahead of time to those communities.
Somehow I heard that there were information, which is not an excuse, regardless.
No, what I'm saying that is because if there was an information that came beforehand, then there should be solutions to mitigate that particular thing. That thing wouldn't have happened if the leaders in those communities had seen it, and they're like, oh, this thing would happen. Please, let's get security, people that would, make sure that this does not happen. Let's find a way to, cope this particular thing before it actually happens. Because if you have heard about it, before it gets to that, and the people in those, the people making the videos.
They are the one in charge of. They are the one that did the festival, so they knew that was. They knew.
No, that was not the plan from the press statement. That was not the plan.
It was
the plan,
hijacked.
yes, it was hijacked. So if it was hijacked, then I feel that they should have heard about the hijack before it started, because we saw a lot of people out there. Why are people? It's a festival. Why are a lot of people out there? Are they waiting for something? What's happening? That's the first thing that they're supposed to have done. As elders, they should have understood, and then let's get police, let's get soldiers, let's get people that will help us to mitigate anything that would have happened, and that would have saved those ladies that were harassed and traumatized, right? So
I agree. We've been having conversations regarding the realigning traditional practices for development. I have with my guest Louise Tomisin has been doing justice to the conversation. We'll go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue from where we stopped. Thank you.
Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show.
Welcome back from that. We've been discussing 21st century Africa and how we can draw the line between harmful cultural traditions and respecting human dignity. So we'll probably continue from the discussion earlier. You were saying that the community leaders already knew that this was what was going to happen. They could have provided security.
If they knew, they should have provided,
Okay, now before we talk about the harmful effect of the hijacking parts, we agree that there was a festival. So now, if the impact of these practices is widely known, what do you think continues to sustain them, in the sense that I'm sure that this was not the first time that they did that kind of festival, and maybe they didn't get this kind of impact, but something would have made them to continue to do it. So what do you think sustained? What is it that they are seeing result of the festival? Is it that it's just happened, or it's just something that they just have to continue regardless of whether it is positive or it's negative? It's just something that they just have to continue doing.
So I just feel that if this has been happening, if it was not hijacked, I feel that we would not even know about it till now, that they are doing that particular thing. And for them to continue to do it, I feel that maybe it has been helping them in that particular community. you know, maybe fertility issues, because they say that's the reason why they're doing what they're doing. So probably it's because, you know, it helps them with their fertility. I don't know how it helps them, but that's what they believe in. And you know, sometimes people say what you believe in work for you, you know. So but what we're driving at is the fact that it is harmful, right? What happened actually was harmful. The fact that there was rape was harmful. So we don't want sustainability. We don't want it to continue because of the fact that rape happened, right? The sustainability of them pouring sand on women and all of that, I don't even know why that is happening or what the sand will do, you know, in their own culture. And I don't know how, you know, it helps them, right? And you know, I need to go and do proper investigation. Does that, you know, does that help with fertility and all of that before I say, oh no, that should not be happening, right? And that's their culture. But when it now comes down or brings a woman's dignity down, you know, her safety, you know, the fact that she's a human,
it has become an harmful
then it
should
becomes
be
a harmful
stopped.
traditional
So now
practice.
individuals within these communities, some of them were fully in support. I was reading comments and people were like,
they shouldn't have gone out.
It's going to happen. They shouldn't have gone out. Why did the ladies go out? Why didn't they stay indoors? And I'm like, okay, so there are people that actually do not see anything wrong in that. While of course, we had some people who had long-standing questions and they were against it, but we still had people that supported.
The majority, when I was reading, were men. Yeah, when I saw it, majority, and they were like, oh, I saw a comment on Twitter, and the person said, oh, the girls are probably enjoying it, and that's the reason why they came out at this particular time. Yeah, I saw a comment like that. You know, I saw different comments. You know, I don't know how a woman will come out at her own risk because she wants to enjoy,
be molested
exactly
in that manner. So now, who holds the influence to shape change within the systems? We already know that the traditional leaders, the elders, the community elders, the ancestors, whatever, they do not seem to have a say in this conversation. So now, who holds the influence? Should we call on the government?
Yeah,
should we call on
the government and the community that is affected? The both of them, you know. So number one, the duty of the government is to enforce the law, protect individuals in that community, and to, you know, hold perpetrators accountable, right? Then for the people in that community, they need to reform some of those laws, some of those traditions that they are holding, that are happening in those communities. Let's go back and let's go and see what's happening, you know, in this particular, especially when it comes to female genital mutilation. Does it help the women? What are the health benefits? What's happening? You know, from there they were able to say, oh, if the FGM is not helping, if this is what the issue is, then we need to, you know, stop it, right? So I think that we need to, you know, go back to these laws and make a reform on some of these laws so that, you know, women can live a healthy life.
I like that we are not allowing silence to take charge in this situation, because imagine if we had not seen the videos, it would have just gone like that and continued like that.
And again, sometimes silence, you know, helps the situation to continue. I'm saying this because of people that have gone through sexual and gender-based violence and they didn't talk about it. And you're not talking about it. Number one, it's facilitates or open the door for that same perpetrator to rape another person or to do something bad to another person.
And then it continues.
I understand that sometimes when you go through those particular things, you don't want to speak at that particular time, and sometimes it's hard. And I would not say, oh, this is the right time to speak or this is not the time to speak, but I would say that you being completely quiet about that particular situation opens the door for perpetrators to do more, especially if that perpetrator is still in that particular community. So I feel that it's very, very important that we
don't allow silence. If the perpetrator is being punished, it will even serve as a detriment to other people that may even be thinking of committing such crime.
Exactly. So when we hold one person accountable and we're saying, oh, you have done this particular thing, this will face the law. We have our laws, right? We have Child Right Act, we have the VAP Act, we have Maputo Protocol, right? And you know, looking at the VAP Act, I think it's 4 years imprisonment and I think 400,000 naira fine for female genital mutilation. Aiding and abetting is like 2 years and then maybe 200,000 naira fine, right? You know, looking at the laws, but I don't think I've seen one person that, you know, has been held and say, oh, this is what you have done, and because you have done this, these are the, you know.
And that is why it
so it keeps happening because perpetrators are not, you know, held accountable. They are not punished for the offense that they've actually, you know, done. So we see these things reoccurring in particular communities.
So now, if we want to put ourselves in the shoes of the government now, and then want to reform tradition, what would a reform tradition look like? Is it one that preserves identity while also prioritizing dignity and well-being? And remember that we do not want to totally cancel the culture and tradition, because
it's beautiful. Some of them are beautiful. Let me just say, let me not say it's beautiful. Some of them are beautiful. Some of them are good. Some of them are wonderful. Looking at the traditional weddings and you know, some beautiful ones, you know, where people dance and they're excited. You know,
we have the Ojude Oba festival.
Oh, that's beautiful.
People are always looking forward to it. It's a big. They're always looking forward to it.
So that's good. But when we now have things like some of these things that, you know, demean people's humanity and dignity, then I feel that those particular things, you know, they are harmful traditional practice and or harmful legacies that has been passed down, and we need to now start looking into them and say, okay, we need to reform them. And I think that with the leadership, you know, I feel that even the leadership of this particular community, I think it happened in the Isoko local government, the leadership should be held accountable. What happened? What happened?
Education and awareness plays a very vital role, because some people were just doing it based on that was what our ancestors have been doing. They don't know the gravity of what they've done or what they are doing. So education and awareness would come in place. Okay, you tell people that fine, this is the culture, but we can reform it this way. It could be done this way. If you want to do something like this, and maybe there's a proper notice has been put in place, and okay, you could even see, instead of the men, instead of trying to undress the ladies, they could even be the one to even walk her down to her house and protect her and make sure
exactly
that she gets home safely. Those are
so education plays a huge role, right? Because when people understand the harm that is actually happening as a repercussion to what they've done, you know, that would help people. They'll be able
to think forward and prefer a solution.
So I think that traditional leaders also should sit and look at the community and say, what are some of the things that are affecting us in our communities, that are affecting the women and girls, the vulnerable group in the community? What are some of those things, and how can we address them? How can we reform some of these laws? Are there laws that we need to reform to keep, or are there laws that we need to eradicate, like completely remove, like female genital mutilation, breast ironing, tribal mark, force feeding, you know, some of these traditional practices that are still happening. I know that when I mention force feeding, a lot of people will be like, oh, force feeding, you know, why are you talking about force feeding? But you see that a lot of children have died in the process of feeding. A lot of children have died in the process of, you know, their mom feeding them, closing their nose, opening their mouths, trying to strangle. It's like they're trying to strangle them. Why not find a food that the child loves and enjoy, you know, and try to make it for them?
Our African parents understand that.
They just feel that the stomach of the child needs to be filled. Regardless.
And if you look at it, they are trying to
help the child.
But
so even when you look back at some of these harmful traditional practices happening, they are trying to also help, right? They're trying to help that particular breast ironing. They say they want to reduce, because they feel that once a man sees a girl's breast, then the need for sexual assault is in their mind, right? So they're trying to reduce the girl's breast so that she looks younger than, you know, looks younger in maturity.
Rather than talk to the boys or talk to the men about not assaulting a female, they'd rather make the female not attractive to the male, which is harm on the girl, and that's not nice. That's not kind. It's not kind. That's not fair. You know, it's demeaning, and I don't think it's something that we should continue. I agree with you, Lois. With your experience in advocacy, cross-cultural engagement, and your work in addressing practices like female genital mutilation and gender-based violence, your insights have been really incredibly valuable to this conversation. Thank you. From a personal point of view, from your own perspective, what what do you think would be the solution? What solution can you prefer to any African government listening to our conversation right now?
Okay, so I would say to the government, I would say that it's important that we understand that we are responsible to the individuals in our community, in the particular place where we're ruling, right? So I would say that it's very, very important that we uphold, if there are laws, we ensure that these laws are followed, right? And we make sure that these laws are laws that are not demeaning to human dignity. Hold perpetrators accountable. If some people have done some things that are wrong, how do we hold them accountable so that other people do not follow? And at the end of the day, we must make sure that the people in our communities are safe. We see the kidnappings happening. We see some of these harmful traditional, practices that are also happening. If there is a way that the government can come fully into the gender decks that we're talking about in police stations, everything that needs to be put in place, if we put those things in place, those things that are actually on paper, if we put them into action, I feel that we'll leave where we are and move into where we're planning to go.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Aside government, as a female, I want to call on women communities, women organizations, because most of these things happen and then girls and females are at the receiving end. I saw a post that says women are not angry enough, and I totally agree with the fact.
I saw the video as well.
We are not angry enough. We are not angry enough because if these things
it depends on us.
Yes, it depends on us.
We are the communities that are affected.
Yes, the government sometimes those are the deciding body. They are also male, and they may not understand it from our own point of view. But if we have stronger,
and that's why we're advocating for the reserve seat bill, so that we can have women that are there that understand the needs of women, and they're able to
call them out and be able to profile realistic solutions that would also be of benefit even to the boy child, to the males too. It doesn't have to be only to the female, because when we have these things, it's always like, and then it feels like the women are talking too much. The
prevalence for women is high. That's what we're talking about. Women a lot.
That's what we're talking about. They'll be like, men get abused too, men get raped too, but we don't have conversations like this. But
I'm sorry to say, but sometimes men are the perpetrators of these things.
If you look at it, you would agree that women are much more on the receiving end, and this needs to stop. All right, we've been having conversations regarding realigning traditional practices for development, and it's been a wonderful conversation. It feels like we should not even end it here, but of course we'll bring Lois back to our studio. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.